Good morning, Joni Rutten here. Continuing from Lookoutfa Charlie's videos, and the interview we were listening to on Art Bell's show. So I'm going to break down the things mentioned, and so I'm just going to do shorter little segments. The first one I'm going to do, this is Wikipedia, so it's just a beginning research just to give you an overall idea of who these people are and what these companies and everything is talking about, operations, etc. So one of the names that was mentioned was José Manuel Rodríguez Delgado. And so when we look him up, let's just see who he is. He was born August 8th of 1915 and died on September 15th of 2011. He was a Spanish professor of neurophysiology at Yale University, famed for his research on mind control through electrical stimulation of the brain. His biography goes on to say that Rodriguez Delgado was born in Ronda in the province of Malaysia. I'm thinking, is that right? That doesn't seem right. Malaga, Spain in 1915, and who received a Doctor of Medicine degree in the University of Madrid just before the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War. During the Spanish Civil War, he joined the Republican side and served as a medical corpsman while he was a medical student. He was held in a concentration camp for 5 months after the war ended, and after serving in the camp, he had to repeat his MD degree and then gained a PhD at the someplace I'm not going to be able to say institute in Madrid. So Rodriguez Delgado's father was an eye doctor, and he had planned to follow in his footsteps. However, once he discovered the writings of Santiago Ramon Canjal, I guess that's how you'd say that, Canjal, a Nobel laureate, I knew I was going to not be able to say that, laureate in 1906. And after having spent some time in a physiology laboratory, Delgado no longer wanted to be an eye doctor. He became captivated by the, quote, many mysteries of the brain. How little was known then, how little is known now. And so in 1946, he won a fellowship at Yale University in the Department of Physiology under the direction of John F. Fulton. In 1950, Rodriguez Delgado accepted a position in the Physiology Department, which at the time was headed by John Fulton. By 1952, he had co-authored his first paper on implanting electrodes into the human or into humans. And the Spanish Minister of Education, Vilar Palisi, asked Rodriguez to help organize a new medical school at the Autonomous University of Madrid. Just the name of that, in association and in the same, paragraphs as, brain chips or something. Implanting electrodes sounds crazy. He accepted that guy's proposal and relocated to Spain with his wife and his 2 children in 1974. He had last moved with his wife to San Diego, California before his death in September 15th of 2011. So what is his research? What do she things did this guy do? His research interests centered on the use of electrical signals to evoke responses in the brain. His earliest work was with cats, but he later did experiments with monkeys and humans, including psychiatric patients. Much of his work was with an invention he called the stimoceiver, a radio which joined the stimulator of brain waves with a receiver which monitored EEG waves and sent them back on separate radio channels. Some of these stimocievers were so small as $50. This allowed the subject of the experiment full freedom of movement while allowing the experimenter to control the experiment. This was a great improvement from the early equipment, which included visual disturbance in those whose wires ran from the brain to the bulky equipment that both recorded data and delivered the desired electrical charges to the brain. This early equipment, while not allowing for free range movement, was also the cause of infection in many subjects. I read this and I just think, there's no way we could be here in all of these great medical technologies without harming other humans who I am sure were not willing participants. The stenoceiver could be used to stimulate emotions and, of course, control behavior. And according to Rodriguez, quote, stimulation of different points in the amygdala and the hippocampus in the 4 patients produced a variety of effects, including pleasant sensations, elation, deep, thoughtful concentration, odd feelings, super relaxation, colored vision, and other responses. So they name all the positive ones. We gave them pleasant sensations and elation. They had thoughtful concentration, a few odd feelings. They were super relaxed, and other responses, probably all the really bad ones. I don't want to tell you about that. He stated that the, quote, brain transmitters can remain in a person's head for life. And the energy to activate the brain transmitter is transmitted by the way of radio frequencies. Go figure. Using the stemoceiver, Rodriguez found that he could not only elicit emotions, but he could also elicit physical reactions. These specific physical reactions, such as the movement of a limb or the clenching of a fist, were achieved when he stimulated the motor cortex. Humans whose implants were stimulated to produce a reaction were unable to resist the reaction. And so one patient said, quote, I guess, doctor, that your electricity is stronger than my will. Holy fuck. One of the most promising finds is related to an area called the symptom verum, a structure within the brain's limbic system. In this area, when stimulated, produced feelings of strong euphoria. And these euphoric feelings were sometimes strong enough to overcome physical pain and depression. So if you were hurting, we could actually change that. That's very interesting. He created many inventions and was called a technological wizard by one of his Yale colleagues. Other than the stemoceiver, he also created the chemitrode, which was an implantable device that released controlled amounts of drug into specific brain areas. And he also invented an early version of what is now a cardiac pacemaker. In Rhode Island, he did some work at what is now a closed mental hospital. He chose patients who were desperately ill patients with whose disorders had resisted all previous treatments and implanted electrodes in about 25 of them. Some of these patients were either schizophrenics or epileptics. To determine the best placement of electrodes within the human patients, he initially looked at the work of Wilder Penfield, who studied epileptic brains in the 1930s, as well as earlier animal experiments and studies of brain-damaged people. The most famous example of the stemoceiver in action occurred at a Cordoba bull breeding ranch. He stepped into the ring with a bull which had an stemoceiver implanted within its brain. The bull charged. Delgado, who pressed the remote control button, which caused the bull to stop its charge. Always one for theatrics. He taped this stunt, and it can be seen today. I've actually seen that as well. That video, remember that. The region of the brain stimulated when he pressed the handheld transmitter was the caudate nucleus. This region was chosen to be stimulated because it involved in controlling involuntary movements. So it was because that is the place that is involved in controlling voluntary movements. He claimed that the stimulus caused the bull to lose its aggressive instinct. It had been argued that it was easier to block motor control than motivation or feelings. However, the public understood that mind control was near. Although the bull incident was widely mentioned in popular media, Rodriguez believed that his experiment with a female chimpanzee named Patty was more significant. Patty was fitted with a stemoceiver linked to a computer that detected the brain signal called a spindle, which was emitted by her part of the brain called the amygdala. When the spindle was recognized, the stenoceiver sent a signal to the central gray area of Patty's brain, producing an aversion reaction. In this case, the aversion reaction was an unpleasant or painful feeling. The result of the aversion reaction to the stimulus was a negative feedback on the brain. Within hours, her brain was producing fewer spindles as a result of the negative feedback. As a result, Patty became quieter, less attentive, and less motivated during her behavioral testing. Although Patty's reaction was not exactly ideal, Rodriguez hypothesized that the method used on Patty could be used on others to stop panic attacks, seizures, and other disorders controlled by certain signals within the brain. Sounds scary. He authored 134 scientific publications within 2 decades, from 1950 to 1970, on electrical stimulation on cats, monkeys, and patients, psychotic and non-psychotic. In 1963, New York Times featured his experiments on the front page, and Rodriguez had implanted a stenoceiver in the caudate nucleus of a fighting bull. He could stop the animal midway that would come running towards a waving flag. He was invited to write his book, Physical Control of the Mind Towards a Psycho-Civilized Society. That sounds scary. As the 41st volume in his series entitled World Perspectives, which was edited by Ruth Nanda Anshin. It is Rodriguez who had, Rodriguez had discussed how we have managed to tame and civilize our surrounding nature, arguing that now it was time to civilize our inner being. How great for him. The book has been a center of controversy since its release. The tone of the book was challenging, and the philosophical speculations went beyond the data. Its intent was to encourage less cruelty and a more benevolent, happier, better man. However, it clashed with religious sentiments. He continued to publish his work and philosophical ideas through articles and books over the next quarter of a century. He in all wrote over 500 articles and 6 books. His final book in 1989 was named Happiness and has 14 editions. Jeez. So he has an idea: physical control of the mind towards a psycho-civilized society. So in the media, the story of Rodriguez's mind control research was featured in an episode of Dark Matters, Twisted But True, in a segment entitled Human Puppets, as well as the controversy sparked by his research. At age 91, he was also featured in person in a 2006 episode of the BBC documentary series Horizon Human 2.0. And here is the references to this. You've got some further reading to the names. Let's just go at some of these. So John Horgan, 85, The Forgotten Era of Brain Chips. We've got there another John Horgan, The Myth of Mind Control. Will anyone ever decode the human brain? Maggie Scarf has a article. Brain researcher José Delgado asks, what kind of humans would we like to construct? Jesus. And Delgado JM, I don't know who that is, if that's his son or something, but instrumentation, working hypothesis, a clinical aspects of neurostimulation. Maybe that was, another article. And then some books, Elliot S. Wallenstein, Brain Control, a critical examination of brain stimulation and psychosurgery. And then we've got some external links, Psycho-Civilization and Its Discontents, an interview with Jose, Wirehead, Hedonism versus Paradise Engineering, and Age of Neuroelectronics by Adam Kepler. So that really sounds very scary. I'm not so sure that I'm a fan. And you're going to get these people that go, oh my God, but I had epilepsy and now I don't. And okay. Do you realize there was a guy who didn't have epilepsy and now he does? He's dead now. But because of his sacrifice, you're saved. That's the problem with medicine, is that for every good part, there is a million bad parts. And I hear bad in this. So, okay. But Joni, we'll all get along. We won't fight. Right. Okay. But I have something else controlling me. I'm not in control. Where was that one where he says it's bigger than my own will? How strange is that to say? Like, I want to move it, but I can't. So your pulses are stronger than my will. I don't know. That sounds very Mark of the Beastie. I'm just saying. So the world is scary. I just want to skate. That's why I put my pillows and buckled, tied them on. But yeah, there's Rodriguez. So Jose, that's hard to say. Anyway, he's in, he was one of the godfathers of mind control. So there you go. Bye now. I'll be back with more. Bye.